small rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Well, I'm sure by now everybody's heard about Jupiter's Legacy. #1 show on Netflix. And we talked about this a few weeks ago because our old buddy Matt Lanter, you know him as the voice of Anakin Skywalker on the Clone Wars, and made a brief appearance on Star Wars Rebels. But there was an article that was written that said that quoted Matt as saying, well, I never put Anakin Skywalker on the shelf. I never put him away. There's always new projects and new things. And so we said, well, we should talk to Matt. We should catch up with him. And then we knew that Jupiter's Legacy was about to launch. And man, did it launch. I mean, it launched and skyrocketed. It's the #1 show on Netflix. It's like #1 and over across dozens and dozens of countries. It's huge. It's the equivalent of having a #1 film at the Blockbuster, or #1 film in the theaters these days. And it's just incredible. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And this week we've got him in the Cantina. So all new interview, exclusive here on Rebel Force Radio with Matt Lanter. We're going to talk about, of course, Jupiter's Legacy and what he meant maybe in that interview that he gave a few weeks ago about Anakin Skywalker, because wherever he goes, he gets asked about Anakin Skywalker, no matter what he's involved in. Somebody else that gets asked about Star Wars, no matter where he goes, no matter what he's doing, is my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans.
Jupiter's Legacy #1.
Remember that? But no, it is #1, and Matt Lanter's #1 for us Star Wars fans. He's been the #1 Anakin Skywalker for us Clone Wars fans for a long time, and Matt is spectacular in this new show. I have to say, the acting is off the charts, and I'm so looking forward to talking to him about Jupiter's Legacy because, Jason, I notice a lot of parallels between his character and Anakin Skywalker's character. So Matt plays a really complex character in the TV show named George Hutchense. And George Hutchense is part of a group of people who, well, you just have to watch the show and find out. But it's a superhero show. Yep. It's a new franchise. It's a superhero show. And it's by Mark Miller, who is a legendary comic books writer, and the comic book or trade novel, or what do you call them? Trade
paperbacks, right? I don't graphic novel.
Graphic.
That's
novels.
what I'm looking for. Yeah.
That's your highbrow. That's your highbrow word.
I don't read comic books.
Comic book.
I read graphic novels.
Totally. But Matt's in Jupiter's Legacy, and like you said, Jason, it's so impressive that it's the #1 streaming show on Netflix worldwide. Yeah. So this is the first time on Rebel Force Radio we're going to have the star of the #1 show on the same week that the show is so successful. So I don't think we've ever had a #1. I don't know. We've talked to so many superstars on the show over the years. It's hard to even keep track. But Matt is the man of the moment right now, and he's returning to Rebel Force Radio to join us in the Cantina this week.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Like I said, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. We're so proud of him. Yeah. But you know what? Let's check in with Star Wars news. We've got Ewan McGregor making his first comments since cameras started to roll on Kenobi. So let's get right to it.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
So we had a lot, Jim, we had a lot of appearances by Ewan McGregor on the talk show circuit prior to cameras rolling on Obi-Wan. He was asked about it constantly for years, but now we know what's happening, and you've brought us some clips from a recent interview that he did since production began.
That's right, Jason. I don't think we heard from Ewan since prior to shooting, when he was out promoting his motorcycle show. That show where he drives his bike all the way from Central America up to LA.
Right.
So now he's back. He's doing interviews. Not really sure what he was promoting specifically in this interview with Jimmy Kimmel Live from this week, but the interview took place from the production offices on the set of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So there's Ewan sitting there on a sofa with the film posters for the 3 Star Wars prequels right behind him. Obviously, the posters for the prequels getting everyone on the production crew into that proper vibe for Ewan McGregor's return to Star Wars. And Ewan McGregor spoke a little bit. He gave us a little update and let us know that Kenobi is definitely in front of the cameras right now.
I have to say, I'm having a really, really good time. The costume's probably slightly different, than you might expect. So, but to go back into the role, shall we say, it's great. It's like it's all still there. It feels good. There's some great. It's great scripts and great people to work with, and it's great. I'm having a good time. And we got this new technology. We've got this, before we did this months of blue screen and green screen acting, and now we've got this extraordinary technology where we sort of work inside a big screen, and the backgrounds are on there, and so feels much more realistic. It's good.
So confirmation they are using the volume or that technology. He sounds really enthusiastic. He's making, as if I couldn't get more excited about the show, he's making me feel very excited about it. That little nugget that he dropped, the costume's a little bit different.
There you go.
That's interesting. What could it be? I mean, we've never seen him in a different costume. No, he's always had the tabards. He's always had the earthy tone robes, and what could it be?
Yeah, what could it be? He's obviously going to be wearing something very different. I had imagined him appearing like he would in that statue from Sideshow Collectibles a few years ago, where he was out in the, it was clearly Obi-Wan, the recluse carrying all of his belongings on his back with meager possessions and
what did they call it? There's a name, I think, now for that particular Obi-Wan, that in between, that hybrid between the Guinness and the Ewan McGregor, but they did it. It was a beautiful statue.
It's called the Ben Kenobi Mythos statue. Exclusive release from Sideshow Collectibles.
I saw it at Rancho Obi-Wan. He's got Steve's got it there on display.
Steve loves that.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. It could be, what always fell apart a bit for me on that concept is, Jim, can you imagine if you're Obi-Wan Kenobi and you want to sort of remain incognito? I can't imagine decking yourself out in clone trooper armor on top of Jedi robes. It seems a little odd, but perhaps, I don't know, maybe it's a way to survive in the harsh.
Oh, are you thinking of something different than I'm thinking of? He's carrying clone trooper. Maybe you could put it on him. I'm looking at some photos of it right now, and he's carrying.
I am thinking of some. I'm sorry. I'm conflating two things. There's the sort of realistic take of Obi-Wan Kenobi where he's wearing the Clone Wars, the clone trooper armor. And then there's this mythos statue, which you're talking about, which is a much more weather-worn Obi-Wan that sort of has that face that's part Ewan McGregor, part Alec Guinness. And he's got a satchel, like he's trudging through a sandstorm on Tatooine. And the armor, I think, is you see remnants of the armor, don't you? I feel like there's
He's carrying it on his back. He has his Clone Wars armor on his back. The stuff he wore in the Clone Wars cartoon show. Desert Nomad.
Desert Nomad. Yeah. I think they should call it Crazy Old Man. That wizard's just a crazy old man.
That's, I want to see that. I want to see the crazy old man. Yeah, that wizard, that crazy old wizard. That's what I need out of this TV show. Yeah. I want some crazy Ben stuff, where he has to do it to keep the heat off of him, I
want to hear him doing the crate drop in the Krayt Dragon sound, too, at some point. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Or maybe having an experience with the Krayt Dragon to where he's like, bloop, 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 or whatever.
But, somebody just wrote us at show@rebelforceradio.com. Just dropped an email in our inbox this week. And I had to respond to it because I think this dude, his angst was pointing in the wrong direction. And it has to do with that ever-evolving Krayt Dragon cry that comes from Ben Kenobi in the original Star Wars. Yep. So I got this email from Mark. Mark wrote us at show@rebelforceradio.com. The subject matter, what the hell have Disney done to episode 4? So he is across the pond, as they say, and he had a quick little rant for us. And he says he's coming from a crap day at work, okay? So he wanted to cheer himself up by firing up the microwavable popcorn and watching Star Wars, the original Star Wars A New Hope, on Disney+. And he said he was he was surprised to see the 20th Century Fox music was back at the beginning. But as he continued to watch the film, he said it just wasn't sitting right with him, and he wasn't enjoying it because as Luke was looking for R2 when the Sand People attacked, and then WTF was that? Did I miss it? Did I hear it wrong? So I rewound back 20 seconds and I heard it again. And with that, I turned it off. And what he's talking about is the change made at the point when old Ben saves Luke by making a noise. And then he says the new noise compared to the original was bloody awful. Bloody awful. So he needed to vent. And he came to the right place, Rebel Force Radio. So I wrote him back, and, I wanted to address the fact that he was blaming Disney for this, because we know at this point that George Lucas was responsible for any audio revisions or visual revisions that went on with the Star Wars original series, the original films. And true, Disney just recently released the 4K version, but that was something that George had been working on way back when, almost a decade ago. And they're using his mix, his 4K mix, that he personally oversaw. We've had Matt Wood talking about this, where Matt explained exactly how that all went down. And that also heralded the arrival of the McConkie.
Yeah, okay. I have to tell you that I can relate to this listener who emailed, because over the weekend, and I texted you and brother Billy, I took a few hours and I started archiving my Star Wars collection, and I threw the 4K disc on as I sat there in front of the TV archiving my 3 3/4 inch collection. And the two things that jumped out at me, I mean, just like, it was as if a cartoon character, like in that movie with Jim Carrey, The Mask, like he just jumped out of the TV and hit me in the head with a mallet. The two things were the Obi-Wan, the Krayt Dragon, which is a really weird sound. It's it's too human and yet not enough. I don't know what's going on. And then the McClunky. The McClunky is even more out of place than I remember it.
McClunky.
It makes, isn't that good? Yeah, McClunky. It makes it so much better now.
I love it. I love it.
It's so out of place. It's almost like it's his cue to shoot him. Like,
right.
When you say McClunky, shoot him. It's just, I don't know. I really relate to these. Yeah.
That is the cue. So I tried to talk our buddy down from across the pond, and I'm going to try to talk everyone down, I guess. But the thing is like I said, the Krayt Dragon sound has been ever evolving, and it's been through so many changes. And all of those changes, it wasn't what the hell Disney have you done? It's all of those changes were supervised by George Lucas himself before he retired. The original sound, the one we love so much from the 1977 film, was a stock sound effect that was used in an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon called Dino Boy. So you can hear it was just taken out of a production collection and placed into the film.
I think I have it here. Do you mind if I hit it? I got it right here. I think this is the original, A New Hope.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So you get a little whistle and then the Dino Boy sound effect. Can I hear that again?
Yeah. Here it is.
Oh, I love that sound. So that's the one from the original 1977 release. And then George changed it for the special editions when they were released to Blu-ray. And when he did that, he tapped on the team at Skywalker Sound. And so what you hear then is a combination of two of the sound designers' voices, specifically Matt Wood and David Acord. It's a combination of both their voices and no Dino Boy. And that sound had changed a few times. I don't know what they're currently using on the 4K version, but I think it's the same as the Blu-ray.
It is. It's the same as the Blu-ray, though it just jumps out as so out of place. I don't know. It's like a whoop. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. I don't have it in front of me. Unfortunately, I don't have the audio clip. But we just keep it real. We keep the original on hand.
That's the one you always had.
We used to have a keychain. Do you remember? We had a keychain that you pressed it, and the Krayt Dragon.
Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, you can see that Krayt Dragon keychain on our YouTube channel.
Right.
Yeah, and I actually gave that to Matt Wood and David Acord, who share a studio at Skywalker Sound. I gave that to them, and they keep it in the studio till this day. And to them, that's the steam whistle blowing at the end of the day. When it's quitting time, the last thing they do before they turn off the lights in the studio is they hit the Krayt Dragon keychain.
And then they ride.
And what's funny about the keychain,
the
keychain was released as a promotional item for John Jackson Miller's Kenobi novel, and it incorporates that original Hanna-Barbera cartoon sound effect.
Yep.
And another thing that connects us to Skywalker Sound and this sound effect is when we discovered that the original was used in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, we called Matt Wood and David at Skywalker Sound just out of the blue. They weren't expecting us to call. But we called and it was like, hey, guys. And so they got on the line with us and started talking about some of the changes the Krayt Dragon sound effect had gone through over the years. And Matt let it slip. He said, And there's going to be an updated version on the Blu-ray. And when Matt said that on the show, all the blogs lit on fire. Every movie blog, every Blu-ray blog, every film collector blog, every Star Wars blog, every blog. And it went up to the top at Lucasfilm. And those guys got called on the carpet. And that was the first time I think we as Rebel Force Radio got in trouble with the powers to be, I think that was the very first time.
And we've dragged
I remember Matt pulling me aside. It was at a 501st party. And Matt came over and he's got a beer. He hands it to me and he's like, "Oh my God, the phone calls after I was on your show and I said that thing about the Blu-ray." Because you see, they hadn't released information about the Blu-ray.
Right.
It was nothing but a rumor at that time.
Yep.
And then Matt said the Blu-ray mix. And we're like, "Oh, the Blu-ray mix, yeah." yeah. Like it's nothing, right? And it's meanwhile, we're like, there definitely is a Blu-ray coming. We got confirmation on that. Of course, we didn't have any date or anything. And they made the big announcement then at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando during the George Lucas panel with Jon Stewart.
Yes.
That's when they finally made that Blu-ray
And Stewart really had to prod George about the Blu-ray. It was towards the end, and he's like, "Yeah, you got anything else you want to talk about?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, the Blu-ray."
He's like, "Am I supposed to do this thing now? Am I? All right, we got a Blu-ray. Show the clip."
Did he say something about they want to do a big whoop-de-doo about it?
Yeah, well, that's all they ever care about, I say just put this crap out there, but they got to do a whole big thing. Fill an auditorium with a bunch of nerds. Meanwhile, you and me are in the front row, drooling, waiting for this information.
Oh my God! And they had the bonus scene where the deleted scene of Luke in the cave constructing the lightsaber. I mean, that was like a religious experience seeing that for the first time. Yeah.
I thought it was so funny afterwards when we were talking to Mark Hamill, and this part was off microphone, but he's like, "Did you guys see that thing?" And we're like, yeah, we thought you were great in it and everything. He's like, "Yeah, but I think everyone was cheering for the lightsaber." And we're like, that was really. We say, "Yeah, Mark, that was great. That was awesome and stuff." He goes, "I thought they were cheering for my cleft chin." We're like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I thought that was what they were all cheering for." Oh no!
It was the reveal that it was you, and
He's like, that was the giveaway though. Was his chin and his chin? Listen, Mark, I know you're listening. Your chin looked fabulous in that shot. I mean, it was the best looking chin I saw that whole weekend.
It was amazing.
I think the green lightsaber is what really made us fans crap our pants.
Yeah.
No, it's the chin. Mark was so convinced. And Mark also told us he hadn't seen it ever. Even after he shot it, he said he had some vague memory of shooting it. But he saw it for the first time while they were taking him on a golf cart to the panel. So he was riding across the convention center and somebody gave him a laptop and said, "Look at this. They're going to show this in 5 minutes on the screen."
Act like you've seen it before.
Mark's like, "I don't even really remember this. Look at that chin." And so he got there and that was history. But of course, Rebel Force Radio listeners knew the Blu-ray was coming several months in advance.
That's right.
Thanks to our on-the-moment phone, our spur-of-the-moment
all due to the Krayt Dragon, when you think about it. I mean,
it's all the Krayt Dragon.
We owe it to the Krayt Dragon.
We owe so much to the Krayt Dragon.
Getting back to the Kenobi series, I would like to see Ben's an experience that maybe Ben would have with the Krayt Dragon, and just one of those little things. Maybe we see the origin of him learning how that could be practical and useful.
Yeah, but that Mandalorian season 2 premiere with Cobb Vanth and that's a tough act to follow.
True. Yeah.
But then again, they have all the special effects assets ready to go. And maybe we only got a little glimpse at what that thing can do. Maybe it's yet to unleash its full fury.
It's still awesome to hear Ewan talking, but to know that he's talking from the set of Kenobi and is in such good spirits. Was there anything else? Did he spill any other deets?
Well, he dropped some interesting information about someone who he's co-starred in a scene with. He shot a scene with somebody, and it's kind of a tantalizing tease he drops here.
I got to play a very special scene on May the 4th.
Oh,
with someone very special in my life, and that's all I can tell you about it. But it was great.
Wow! Is this someone special that we've seen you on camera with before?
No,
never. Ooh, interesting.
So.
Is this special person related to you in some way?
No, not necessarily.
All right, so that was my theory. So my theory was that this is subverting expectations, and it was actually like maybe one of his kids. Got to do a cameo. My first thought was Hayden, and then my second thought was one of his kids. Now I'm thinking it's not the actor, it's the character, and we're talking about Darth Vader that he shot a scene with. And he's saying, "Have we ever seen you on screen with him before?" Well, no. Because he's never, Ewan McGregor has never been in a scene with Darth Vader. You're saying no?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that they never shot a scene together before. I was just thinking to myself, well, Darth Vader appeared at the end of Revenge of the Sith, but obviously not on screen with Ewan McGregor. Now, I could be a super fan nerd and nitpick this and say, well, Anakin Skywalker had fully transformed into Darth Vader by the time he had a showdown with Obi-Wan on Mustafar. That was no longer Anakin. But I will shoot that down. I don't think Anakin fully became Darth Vader until he took that lava bath. And you can debate that all you want, kids, but let's face it. He became more machine than man when he emerged with the black cloak and armor. And so they were never together. Now, here's who I was thinking.
Okay.
Immediately, as I was hearing this, I thought, well, it's going to be Dennis Lawson. Somehow, Wedge is going to show up in this show. But Kimmel says, is it someone you're related to? And McGregor says, no, not necessarily. And so it's okay, not necessarily. Well, it is. Ewan McGregor is Dennis Lawson, Wedge's nephew in real life.
Right.
So he said, not necessarily. So then I started thinking, well, someone very special close to him. Maybe it's Liam Neeson. Qui-Gon Jinn is back. But Kimmel says, have you ever appeared on camera with this person? And Ewan said, no. So, who does that leave? Well, you say Darth Vader. I like that idea. Character, someone I've been very close to, meaning Ewan McGregor is a member of the Star Wars generation who grew up with the original trilogy. And, of course, Darth Vader is extremely special to us. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking maybe he could be talking about Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. Now, I don't know how a Mark Hamill would fit into this sequence unless, of course, Kenobi has a vision of the future. And he sees something there with Luke, So who knows?
So here are the clues. He's not necessarily related to him. You could interpret that to be the actor or the character, one way.
Right.
Okay. And it's someone that he's never been on screen with before, shared screen time with before. Mm-hmm. And you could argue that he's probably talking about himself as the actor versus the character of Obi-Wan. It's a small list,
Yeah, it's tantalizing.
It sure is.
Consider, but I think we'll go insane if we try to. I'd like to come back to this when it is revealed and say, that's the guy he was talking about, or that's the person he was talking about. But right now, we're just kind of in the dark, and it's just fun to sort of speculate. And I just don't think it's going to be Wedge. I thought Wedge would be great, get Wedge in there. De-age Dennis Lawson. But
de-age Dennis Lawson. Uncle Wedge.
Uncle Wedge. I don't.
You think that's what he calls him? I would call him
my
that.
hovel, Uncle Wedge. No, I don't.
I would call him that.
No.
Uncle Wedge.
I would.
We had a good time with Dennis Lawson. He was
wonderful.
Very kind to us.
What a great guy.
Yeah, he was great. So check this out. This is something that's been making the Star Wars forums, and they still have forums? I don't know. The comments box. Yeah. The com boxes, as they call them in the biz. The com boxes have been exploding because of this poster that showed up. This is not uncommon for big productions to post in the trades, looking for some love in the awards season for your consideration. Looking for I think this is for the Emmys.
Yeah, most likely. Or Golden Globes.
Yeah. I think this is Emmy consideration. But check this out. So, lead actor, Pedro Pascal. Supporting actor, Giancarlo Esposito. Tim Morrison. Why not show him some love? Guest actor, we got Omid Abtai, whatever that is. Michael Bye and Bill Burr.
Let's think about these names here.
Who's Omid?
Get into that guy. He's Pershing, Dr. Pershing. I think he's Dr.
That's
Pershing.
Dr. Pershing?
Yeah.
We're going to give this guy an award for running away?
Yeah. Well, he was barely in the season. I mean, he was just in those brief hologram moments where they showed him. I mean, they go on to list just about everyone who acted in season 2 of The Mandalorian as potential guest actors.
They got all these. But right above here is supporting actress Gina Carano in a category all by herself. So it's very interesting to me, and we can speculate about this, and we will, but it's very interesting to me. She was very unceremoniously canned from the project, and yet they're going to potentially throw her out as bait for award season.
They want the gold.
They want the gold, and they're even willing to what? Slum it with Gina Carano after she's been so disgraced?
Publicly so by the very company that fired her.
Right. This makes no sense to me.
It's interesting. And so naturally, the YouTubers, they've been talking about how Lucasfilm has got their tail between their legs, and they're going to have to have a come to Jesus moment where they're going to end up realizing they have to bring Gina Carano back. I've been hearing these reports for a little while, and I brushed them off as fan fiction. Okay. I figured, oh my God, the public spectacle they made of this firing of Gina, and the way they shamed her, and the way she fought back, and it just seemed like that relationship is irreparable at this point.
Right.
But, ladies and gentlemen, put the YouTubers and the gossip mongers aside. I don't mean to add fuel to the fire here, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm going to, because I heard from a very, very somebody I trust very much, who is extremely connected to what goes on in show business and specifically within Star Wars. And they told me that there has been a huge backlash to the Gina Carano firing and the cancel culture that was on display within Hollywood. So much so that the pressure is been overwhelming for Lucasfilm and Disney. And there might actually be some reality behind some of the rumors you might have heard about Gina Carano returning. I'm not going to say absolutely, because you know how this stuff is shifts like the wind in Hollyweird. But, and it's not a YouTuber who told me this. Trust me. It's someone that I trust, and someone whose reputation is, for me, has been spotless. So Yes, yes. So, I mean, that's just insight. That's all I have here. I don't think I'm trying to give information or spread a rumor. I'm just trying to offer a little insight as to what's been going on within the industry since Lucasfilm fired Gina Carano.
Yeah.
That's all it is insight.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say what the YouTubers say. They all say, take it with a grain of salt. Because I don't think I'm pushing fiction here. I think I'm giving you an accurate, feet-on-the-ground account of what's happening within the industry right now based on the confidence I have in this particular person who shared this information with me.
There's no question that it was perhaps the most high-profile public flogging / firing / victim of cancel culture because of, one, how popular this series is and was at the time.
Yeah.
The emergence of the character through merchandise. That I think had a lot to do with it. You had a lot of licensees with money on the table and production.
In my opinion,
that there's. Sorry, I just want to say we know that there's a multiple year turnaround in getting product, made, especially when it comes to action figures and dolls. A lot of R&D, and they pay big money to Lucasfilm for that license. Now Disney. And all of a sudden you go, oh, this super popular character, you've invested all this R&D and sculpting and all this stuff. Yeah, no. Character's gone.
Wow. That's interesting because when you said it was probably the most high profile, I would have said maybe second to Kevin Spacey. But you bring in the merchandising factor. And also, I mean, let's face it, I'm not going to make any judgment calls here, though. But, I mean, what Kevin Spacey was accused of was, I think, much more of an extreme and offensive violation of ethics than what Gina did.
He was accused of physical abuse. And Gina was accused at worst at making a bad, a false equivalency between, something that was, a period of history and
whatever the case is, she weaponized social media. Okay. And what's weird is that we've seen a lot of weaponization of social media from a lot of people associated with Star Wars and Lucasfilm over the years. So that's, so here we are, we're back on that slippery slope, that gray area. But I just find it interesting. Now, to me, though, the biggest crime is the push, the 4-year consideration push for the guest actors. You have the guy who played Pershing. You have the guy who voiced Zero, who was in season 2 for about 3 seconds, voice only. You have Michael Biehn, who was in that great episode, Chapter 13, The Jedi. The unbelievable Bill Burr, who deserves every award they can throw at him. Rosario Dawson, another strong contender, is Ahsoka. Mark Hamill, who brought us to our knees, returning as Luke Skywalker. Diana Lee and Asanto, the goddaughter of Bruce Lee, who was spectacular as the magistrate in Chapter 13. You have the guy who played one of Bo-Katan's Mandalorian soldiers. You have John Leguizamo, who was that one-eyed freak in the beginning at the...
That's hardly Emmy consideration material, is it? I mean,
I agree.
Lord,
but he's a name.
He's a name, right? He's a name.
They want to show off all the star power the show has. Timothy Oliphant, who is absolutely perfect as Cobb Vanth. Misty Rosas, who's done so much. She was most notable as the Frog Lady in season 2. Katie Sackhoff, of course, Bo-Katan. Horatio Sands, of course, Mithral. Amy Sedaris, who's very visible on the show, is Pelimoto. I'm doing all this off the top of my head, too.
This is off the dome. I'm watching this, folks. This is unbelievable.
Mercedes Vernado, who's also the wrestler, who's known. Now, see, that name I can't remember. the wrestler's name.
She's the other Mando.
She was the Mando. Carl Weathers, of course, Grief Karga. Titus Welliver, who was that great Imperial officer with the tan.
Oh, yeah.
Who was in the Bo-Katan episode. And, of course, Ming-Na Wen, the great Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shan. There is an exclusion on this list that I find to be criminal and irresponsible at the slightest. How could they leave Richard Brake off of this list? Richard Brake, who starred as Valen Hess, Imperial Officer Valen Hess, in the penultimate episode of season 2. The episode starring Bill Burr as Bill Burr in The Mandalorian. They invaded that Imperial outpost, and they had that tense moment in the mess hall with that Imperial officer, Valen Hess, where the chemistry was off the charts between Bill Burr and Richard Brake. Richard Brake, really well known for work that he's done in Game of Thrones and tons of other horror films. And just, to me, he turned in the best acting performance of season 2 in his few scenes in that episode. And here is every actor who had any sort of notable dialogue in the entire season, and Richard Brake's name has been omitted, and that's irresponsible. So I took to the social media in complete despair today. I took to the social media and I posted The Mandalorian, #The Mandalorian for your consideration. Troubling to see the unforgivable exclusion of @Richard Brake as Imperial Officer Valen Hess. Among all of the wonderful performances, Richard turned in the best of the whole season in episode 7. My opinion. But I got Richard Brake himself to weigh in and thank us for the support. Jeff Norcott, our friend, UK comedian Jeff Norcott, said, yep, if Bill Burr and Richard aren't in something else together, then someone's not paying attention. And that's true, because they had such great chemistry, the two of them together. The tension in that scene was just perfect. It was just excellent. I mean, when I think about it, it's just one of the true highlights of season 2. And I just don't think Richard Brake gets enough credit for what he brought to the table in that moment. So
Richard replied to the tweet?
Yeah. He what did he say exactly? I'm pulling up the tweet right now. He says, thanks, appreciate the kind words. And then he retweeted it. Oh. But, he does, he's like, effing right, pal. He's not going to say right. He's going to be classy and he's going to be professional. But even Richard has to feel a little bit slighted by that, because that was a truly exceptional performance. Probably my all-time favorite Imperial officer ever, and that includes. Tarkin is those are tough shoes to fill. But
I was really blown away by the fact that there's this random Imperial officer that who's already been made as a 6-inch Black Series figure from the Bad Batch, and we just saw a hologram of him, I believe, in that second episode. Like they can't get this guy made fast enough. Yet here we are without our ability to recreate that amazing tense scene in plastic. There's no Bill Burr figure. There's no Richard, whatever his name is. What's his name?
Richard Brake.
Richard Brake. No disrespect, Matt. Richard Brake. There's no figure of him, but we got to get this random. So it makes me wonder if there's a bigger role to be played for this Imperial and his Imperial officer. The name's escaping me.
Valen Hess.
Valen Hess.
Wait. No. I'm confused. You're talking about the Bad Batch one.
Bad Batch, yes. This was the action figure that the link leaked the night before May the 4th and sold out. An exclusive sold out before they even announced it officially.
Oh, my God. So, if Richard Brake isn't going to get the respect of Disney or Lucasfilm or the Academy or the Emmys or whatever, why don't you just write him a little note of appreciation? He's @Richard Brake on Twitter, and you can just say, "Hey, Richard, you were unbelievable in The Mandalorian," and Emmy or not, you're whatever you want to write if you feel compelled to do so. Say Rebel Force Radio sent me.
Yeah, maybe we need to create our own award where we'll give our own. RFR is going to give its own award for the best actor to turn in a performance in in some Star Wars project.
Yeah.
What
would we call our awards? The Rebel Forces.
Yeah, the Forces.
The Rebel Forces, the RFREs. No, that doesn't.
Yeah, what do you call it? What's that? What's the Rebel logo called? Is there an official name for that?
I don't know, but I got it tattooed on my back molar. It's still there. I saw it the other day while I was flossing.
While you wrap your heads around that, dear listeners, let's talk about, we've got Dave Prowse, of course, the late, great Dave Prowse, who was Darth Vader. I guess that's how the autographs would read now. But Dave Prowse, there was an auction with many of his personal belongings relating to Star Wars and some of the other projects. Of course, he was known in the UK as the Green Cross Code Man, and which predated Star Wars a bit, but still. So he was sort of a figure over there in the UK. But at any rate, a big auction on May the 4th. And Jim, there was a wide range of things that were being auctioned off. Our own Kevin Lyle, our good buddy Kevin Lyle, even bought something. He bought some sort of a jacket worn by Dave Prowse. It was a leather jacket. Yeah. According to Kevin, now everyone that listens to RFR that knows Kevin knows he's a large guy. He's a big guy. And apparently he and Dave Prowse are about the same size. So he figured anything that Prowse could have worn, he could wear. So he bought that. But there was a lot of really cool things. Some of the really awesome things, because, Dave Prowse spent many, many years, decades on the convention circuit, and seems to have been a little bit of an autograph hound himself, and getting autographs from some of his co-stars many years later. One jumps out at me is a great one of Mark Hamill, and he signed it for David. He wrote, "For David, you'll always be Dad Vader to me, your loving son." Mark Hamill, 2007. So these are just some of the personal things in David's collection that were auctioned.
He had a signed picture of Sir Alec Guinness in his his Obi-Wan Kenobi robes, and that was bought at £3,100, which was triple what they thought they would get for it.
There wasn't a lot of Alec Guinness stuff with him. He didn't sign a lot in.
No, he sure didn't.
Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff. There's very little out there.
And of course, there was a Green Cross Code Man uniform, which of course that was the character that David would play on children's television and PSAs, public service announcements, to teach kids how to look both ways before they cross the street. And those are fun. You can see some of those on YouTube because those weren't really accessible to us kids here growing up in the 70s in the States. We didn't have any access to the Green Cross Code Man. I had heard of it mysteriously in interviews and stuff, or it'd be referenced to. I'd be like, what the hell is that? But it really wasn't until I was an adult watching YouTube when I was able to finally see clips of the Green Cross Code Man. Very exciting stuff. Maybe not quite up to Star Wars level of excitement, but still not bad. And that's Darth Vader. And our buddies, Rav and Nick, work for Good Morning Britain. It's a show on ITV in the UK. And they had exclusive access to the auction materials, I guess prior to the auction itself or during the auction. And they recorded a special exclusive report for Rebel Force Radio. So we're going to turn the microphones over to Rav and Nick from Good Morning Britain on ITV as they rifle through some of the David Prowse collection that was available for auction.
There's a Millennium Falcon on the floor over there.
I think that is not included in the auction, but
I'm having that.
and I'm sure they will be open to offers. But the main highlight today...
Look at that saber.
Yeah.
Is that a real one, do you think? Well, it's not real, but do you think it's a prop one?
That, I think, is a prop prototype that didn't go into production, obviously, and someone's given it to David Prowse.
And this helmet here, look, you can lift the top off. I mean, it's full size. I feel sort of scared to touch it.
I'm scared.
But they are.
Get the bill.
I mean, when you're looking at him in the eyes at the front, you just think, my God, you don't want to be coming across him, right?
But there are some really cool items, not just from Star Wars, actually, from when David Prowse was the Green Cross Code Man, his suit, when he was the sort of face of road safety in the UK, his suit, kind of 70s.
That's from Empire.
Yeah, he wore this suit at the premiere of Empire in London.
Got, if you can visualise it, it's got 70s lapels, like giant ones. They're brilliant. It's almost like The Spy Who Shagged Me. It's great.
The one item
Disco
that none of us
Inferno.
in this room have ever got a chance of buying is the script from Empire. 13 grand at the moment. Probably going to go up much higher though.
Wow.
And
It's a shooting script.
Are we allowed to touch it?
Yeah, we can touch it.
So it's only a section, isn't it? It's the bits. It's from the main control deck, Vader's Star Destroyer, but and it starts off with Piet saying, "I think we found something, Admiral." But if you skip it into page, so this is page 1. If you skip it,
They're just flipping through the script. The thing's worth a fortune. These guys are just
Who let
flipping
these
through.
guys in?
Here we go.
They're probably wearing Darth Vader's helmet while they're doing it.
So that you can see the dialogue change.
One's got the Green Cross
Implied
Code
city.
Man.
So the line you expect to see, which obviously is in the film, about Vader being Luke's father, not in the script. And I guess that makes it even more collectible, really.
So here's the line from Vader. "Your future lies with me, Skywalker. Now you will embrace the dark side. Obi-Wan knew this to be true." And Luke said,
"No!
There is much Obi-Wan did not tell you. Come, I will complete your training."
And as it goes on, it's very obvious
need a
that
Kirsch.
the dialogue is not there. So that's increasing the value of this up to 13 grand at the moment. Anything else catch your eye?
Yeah. Did you see the telephone over there? So there's the telephone, which is... it's the Darth Vader telephone, but the telephone's in the back of the head. Look around here now. If you turn it around sideways, you can take the back out, and it's got the digits on the front there. Brilliant, isn't it?
It is really
That's
cool.
from his desk.
And that's probably one of the more affordable items. The auctioneer, Andrew's here. Andrew, since you're not going to give us a discount on any of this, just tell us what the most sort of iconic, valuable item will be today.
It's got to be the script. I mean, that's such a unique piece of cinema history. You know, that's his script. That's all he was ever given to learn his lines for that film. But what I love is the stories behind it. So by Empire Strikes Back, he knew he was going to be overdubbed. So from his own book, he says that he didn't actually bother to learn his lines. He'd just stand there and sometimes just talk rubbish because he knew he was going to be overdubbed, which probably goes some way to explain why it's in such nice condition. But that's so unique. That's
minty fresh.
A massive
Never
piece
opened
of
it.
cinema history.
Never read
It's
it.
got to be that for my money.
And the fact that the dialogue has changed in terms of what we see in the actual film, that adds to the value, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know, I mean, it would be so beautiful if that had that line in there. But the fact it doesn't, I think that makes it extra special, makes it that little bit different. There's a piece of Star Wars in there that no one's seen before, and that equals money.
And talking of money, how much do we reckon you're going to make today? Not you personally, but
I've heard all sorts of figures thrown at me: 80,000, 100,000, 150,000. We have had so much interest. I genuinely couldn't put my finger on a figure.
You could make that 130,000 because that script's coming with me.
The only item in this auction that I thought I might be able to afford was the Darth Vader Lego keyring, but I was swiftly informed it was 500 quid. So.
500
because it belonged to Darth Vader. It belonged to Dave Prowse. And we should mention that the proceeds went to the Alzheimer's research in the UK.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
So it
that's
wasn't
great.
just money for the Prowse family, but it also went to charity. And
As someone who lost a grandparent to Alzheimer's, I really appreciate that. And so God bless David Prowse. He was always great to us here at RFR. and
kept
he
it
always
real.
had time.
That's for
yeah,
sure.
Boy, did he keep it real. And I think he liked us, and he was very open with us all the time, very generous with his time. I can't wait to see Kevin Lyle walking around wearing his jacket. I think that was the disco jacket they were talking about with the huge lapels.
The big lapels.
Yeah.
That's what Lyle's got.
You know, we'll be seeing
Lyle,
him wear that.
Yes, and he'll be charging us $5 to take a picture of him with it. Lyle. But it's just very cool. And huge thanks to Rav and Nick for sending that audio.
Yeah, that was very entertaining. Thank you, guys.
All right, it's time to go into the cantina. And this week we have such an incredible guest. He is the star of the #1 TV series on Netflix right now, Jupiter's Legacy. If you haven't caught it, do it. But make sure you have plenty of time because it is so bingeable. You're going to want to go from episode to episode to episode. We've talked to him many times here, and it's always a thrill. Matt Lanter in the cantina with us here on Rebel Force Radio.
Where are you going, Master?
For a drink. Sorry about the mess. You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
As promised, joining us in the cantina, our good pal, Matt Lanter. Hello, Matt.
Hey,
yes.
guys. Hey, guys. Always good to be back.
Hey, what have you been doing lately? Anything?
Yeah, usually I say, hey, Anakin, but this time I'm compelled to say, what up, George?
And George would say, what does what up mean? He's old George.
Yes, yeah.
Old George is in 1929 still.
We are so happy for you. Jupiter's Legacy, tearing up the charts on Netflix, the #1 show right now. Did you have a sense when you were making this? And we've talked to you since you started filming, and you said, "Yeah, I'll come back when it's on." Did you have a sense when you were making it that it was going to be something special?
Well, yeah, that was the hope. I know we've chatted multiple times, and I kind of keep telling you guys I'm doing the show, and I don't know if you believed me or not because it's been about 2 years. But finally, I'm not a liar. Right. Yeah, I think that I think we all hoped. I mean, we had sort of heard from our Netflix people that this was going to be one of the big Netflix shows this year, and that they were hoping to position it in a way that it could help launch a franchise, basically. Because for those of you listening or watching that don't know, it's called Jupiter's Legacy, and it's basically Netflix's answer to DC or Marvel. It's their go at basically creating their own superhero world. So that's what it is. And we had been told the creative team behind it is stellar. It's Mark Miller, who of course did the comic in 2013. He did the Kingsman franchise, the Kick-Ass franchise, Wanted. These are all popular comics, so he's already got a lot of following in the comic book world. And so all of that, Stephen DeKnight, who did Daredevil on Netflix. So yeah, we had a great team behind it, and so that was always my hope, but you never know in this business how things turn out.
Sure.
And clearly, you can tell by the production value, they spent a great deal of money on the show. And Netflix, they're driving their own car here. I mean, like they'll put it in front of their subscribers if they want to. So, yeah, we had a good idea that good places, but it really seems to have paid off. Jason, you're saying, and or Jimmy Mac, maybe you had said it's #1. It's like #1 in 81 countries right now or something. It's pretty wild.
Wow, that's incredible. Congrats. Did you go back and read Mark's comic from 2013?
I did read the comics. Then after I had digested them all, I actually downloaded a few other like X-Men comics just because I found myself enjoying the I enjoyed the panels, and I enjoyed going through. It's very much like a book. You've got your panel there to kind of jog the imagination, but then you're putting it together in your own head, and it's fun. So I really enjoyed it. And actually I was going back through Jupiter's Legacy last night again, just because there's so much going on. People think season 1 was convoluted a little bit in our show, but the whole series as a whole, the whole, Miller World, Jupiter's Legacy saga. There's so much happening, and it spans like 120 years. So I was going back through, just enjoying the comic again last night, actually.
I'll tell you, Matt, it's the first show, not that this means a lot. It means a lot to me, I'll tell you, but it's the first show since Homeland that my wife will stay up and watch with me and not fall asleep.
Oh, wow.
Like, I mean, she's really, really enjoying it. We've been binging it all week long.
Oh, cool.
We've only got 2 more episodes to go.
Oh, I love
Matt's
7, by the way.
through the whole...
I love 7.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 out of 8 is one of my favorites.
I haven't gotten to that one.
Yeah.
Mac's been all the way
that's
through
a good
it.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to try not to do anything spoilerific here.
Okay.
And to that end, I was reluctant. I was telling Jim earlier, I was reluctant to go and do much research on the comic because I'm enjoying it so much. I don't want to be spoiled because it's classic, Netflix, where every episode leaves you dying to see the next one. You're like, okay, one more, and next thing you know, it's 2 in the morning.
It is a very bingeable show. And some of them, I think, time out at like 54 minutes. Some of them, I noticed one was like 37, which I think is really interesting because it's, that's the freedom of the streaming service, versus network, is that they kind of just are free to tell the story how they want to tell the story. And they're not framed in and boxed in by commercial breaks and all that kind of stuff, which is really great. But yeah, the show's very bingeable. You find yourself going through 2-3 episodes at a time. So I've seen a lot of comments about that, that people have gone through it in the weekend and just, eating it up.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Time flies when you're watching.
Yep.
Yeah, it is very bingeable. I think just because the episodes segue from one to another so seamlessly, despite the fact that it does jump around on the timeline as the story unfolds. And your story is set primarily in the late 20s, stock market crash, that sort of thing. And
I'm so jealous of his clothes.
Oh, you look great.
I just got to say that.
You
killer
are
wardrobe.
Oh my God, you're dressed to the nines in this show.
Very, very dapper. Liz Wolfe, our costume designer, as much as people obviously rave about the super suits and all that went into them, because it's the design elements and the creative process that went into the super suits. It's easy to forego, the 29 stuff, and especially George, because my character is very big and theatrical in a way, down to like the multiple rings on the fingers and all that kind of stuff. So that was a lot of their creative input. So yeah, she deserves all the props in the world, Liz Wolfe.
And you look good as a blonde too.
It's very Zach Morris of
frosted
me, huh?
look.
Like, I just need my white tennis shoes.
Yeah, right.
Time out.
And the comically large cell phone. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It largely appears that your character is definitely an emerging one as far as I'm trying to be careful here with the spoilers.
Yeah.
But he's emerging as far as his place within this realm of superheroes. And I got the feeling that after season 1, that season 2 has to be inevitable. But I was doing some research online and I couldn't find any confirmation about a season 2 because it's essential for us to really fully know the story of your character. We have to get a season 2.
It is.
You know anything about that?
Well, not officially. I mean, to be honest with you, it is my... I think we will, because obviously being number 1 in 81 countries helps.
Yes.
But also the amount of money that they've put into this, I feel like maybe Netflix made an investment that they do have to see through to some degree. This is just me talking. If I was an executive, I would think that you would have to, get some sort of return on your investment. I think it being the first show in the Miller World universe that Netflix has acquired, I would think that they would really want it to go at least a few seasons to potentially be a common thread between some of the other shows that they're going to be doing in that world. So I think for all those reasons, it would be my thought that we would. I've been doing this long enough to know that nothing is certain and it's show business, I guess. But it does feel like Netflix has a little more freedom to kind of do what they want to do. They're not so strapped by the ratings. And of course, I mean, the storyline, Jimmy Mac, like, if you finished it, it really feels like we're just getting started
Yes, yeah. We get the backstory that's necessary, but there's just so much to explore, and specifically with your character.
Absolutely.
There's no question about it, because as I say, he's an emerging character as far as where his place is within this realm of superheroes and stuff. It's interesting because from what I can gather, there are some parallels between George Hutchense and Anakin Skywalker. They both have maybe dark side tendencies.
It's funny. So this last couple of weeks when I've been doing a lot of press, I've obviously a lot of people want to talk about Clone Wars. I didn't know people like Clone Wars so much. A lot of
That's funny because like all the mainstream interviews you've been doing, they're talking to you about Clone Wars. But when you come on the Star Wars show, we talk to you about Jupiter's Legacy.
I know, it's weird, man.
That makes all the sense in the world. Yeah.
It is funny. Of course, they ask all their Jupiter's Legacy questions, but somehow it always steers back to Clone Wars. But so it's funny. So I actually have been talking quite a bit about Anakin because I definitely do see the parallels. I saw somebody tweet at me the other day and they were like, how does Matt Lanter get away with playing, two characters that really are the same character? So it's super similar. Anakin obviously is raised as a hero, and I don't mean by his parents. I just mean in the saga for us as viewers. We see him as a hero, but he lives in the shades of gray. He never quite is, he's not as pure as the Jedi Council would ever want him to be, and he's not evil, and eventually he is perceived. I mean, children murdering children aside, let's just put that aside for a minute. He
said it over there.
Yeah. Let's just tuck that away in its own little box. He perceives the world in a way that he is doing the right thing, and I think the same is. I think you're going to see that play out in a way for George in the coming seasons, hopefully. But yeah, it's also really interesting because I feel like people want to compare Anakin or Star Wars to what's going on, but I think it's kind of obvious that the themes that we're dealing with in Star Wars are just very like basic human themes. It's good and it's evil, and it's light and it's dark, and it's right thing versus wrong thing. So like, how can you not find similarities in that? I think that's the brilliant thing that George did, was he just really tapped into these basic human things that we go through. So
it's primal. It hits us on a level that is so core to the human experience.
Absolutely.
And right. And you're, by the way, I thought it was really cool too that you get and billing at the top of the show, which I love.
Yeah.
And billing. But what now again, Jim's seen the whole series. Haven't. I'm still in this period where we're building up to seeing you in the present time. Now I don't know if we do. I'm assuming maybe we do. There's a character that is your revealed to be your son that's out there, and so it reminded me too a little bit of the build up to see Luke Skywalker in the sequel. Like you hear about him, he's legend. Everyone's telling stories about him, and then finally, I just hope you don't like chuck your cufflinks over your shoulder or something like that.
No, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so there's a lot of, is there pressure as you're looking at the scripts and you're like, wow, they're like, I really got to deliver because they're kind of building up for this moment when I appear finally. Do you sense that pressure at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I do actually, because even though episode 1 and 2, you don't really see George much at all, maybe a scene or two in the past. Right. And there were a couple scenes cut, which maybe one day those scenes will come out. They're a couple of really good scenes, and I don't know why they cut them. But I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get to see him one day. But his presence is known. George's presence is known. They're constantly talking about Skyfox and him defecting from the group, and obviously he has affected Sheldon, who is Josh Duhamel's character, the Utopian, in a major way, to where 70 years later, whatever it is, 60 years later, he's still talking about it day to day and how this affected him so much. So yeah, there's a little bit of that, like, physically when you see him revealed, I'm trying not to give away too much here. Physically, when you see him revealed, it was like okay, how can we make this particular sequence fully dramatic? And because it is, we've talked about and we've talked about and we've talked about, and oh my God, there he is. Let's make it good. So yeah, Jason, there's you're talking about we haven't really seen him in the present day. You just got to finish it. There's sort of a payoff, sort of isn't, but there's still a huge amount of mystery rolling into season 2, hopefully, to where we will definitely get to explore that present day storyline even more.
And you and Josh, the scenes with you two guys together, there's some pretty intense stuff happening. And I think you guys just really had a spectacular chemistry together in those scenes.
Yeah, thanks. Josh is a great dude. He's just a normal guy, unlike a lot of people, in Hollywood. He's just he's easy to get along with. Like we would hang out on set and we would just talk about like his tractor, like on his land in Minnesota. And I'm not trying to dumb it down. I mean that in the best way. Like it's just normal. Yeah. And I just a dude that I would like to hang out with. We actually talk about football a lot. It's just it's refreshing in a way, to be honest. And he's a great dude, great scene partner. And I will say, I am familiar. I was familiar with his work, but maybe not hugely. I haven't seen everything he's done, but he really brought it emotionally. He brought a lot of depth and this weight to this
He's
character.
blown me away in this series. I thought, wow. I mean, I wasn't, I was familiar, just like anybody would be familiar with him. You see, that guy, he's kind of one of those. But I never realized, what a tremendous actor he is, and he really does. He's got the weight of this series on his shoulders. Yeah. And the whole cast is phenomenal. It really feels ensemble like, even though there are, clearly, characters that get more time than others. Sure. But there is an ensemble feeling, a chemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of trying to describe it to some people, like my family and stuff who've obviously hadn't seen it, hadn't read scripts. And I was kind of trying to explain, I'm like, well, I'm not really in the present day for quite a while. I don't know. I feel like I'm important, but I don't really know until it's all cut together. But I actually do always say, well, how there's just Game of Thrones has a lot of characters, but you don't really think less of any character that you watch. You don't really think less of the Stark sisters, even though you might not see them for 25 minutes. Much like that. That's kind of how I was thinking about things that I think as viewers, watch more and more. I hope it's going to be like that, where we're really going to be invested into every one of these characters. And when they're on the screen, we're invested. And then when the next character comes on, we're invested in that story. So hopefully that's how it works. Matt,
do you shoot the series like a film? So you're shooting, you're not shooting necessarily one episode at a time. So to your point about talking to your family about describing it, was some of it kind of a mystery to you until you saw it all strung together because of the way you shoot it?
So we had all 8 scripts prior to when we started shooting. We did shoot in blocks. We shot 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 together. And we had different directors for those blocks. So 1 and 2 is Stephen DeKnight, 3 and 4, Christopher Byrne, so on and so forth. So that's kind of how we did it. And so that the 1 and 2, we might be shooting scenes from 1. The next day we're shooting scenes from 2, but we finished those. And then we moved on to the next block. So that helped a little bit as to not have 8 episodes floating around in our heads. That would be really hard and confusing. And also, there's some character progression that happens. So, to keep all that straight, they shoot in the blocks. It took us a while, though. I mean, it took us, we were there from, what was it? I don't even know, like June through December. And I know we went over by a month or two. Wow. Yeah, for 8 episodes. I mean, that's a lot. And we were in like pre-production months before that. I think I had my I sent in a tape to Stephen DeKnight, and I think that happened in January of 2000 and was it 19? Yeah. And then we didn't start shooting until, because they had months of like, we were working out, we were working with our trainers, they were doing body scans, they were building the suits. The suits took like, I don't know, a couple of months to build each suit. I don't know if this is true, but I heard those suits are like hundreds of thousands of dollars each. Like they're a big deal.
I'll bet.
So they needed to cast us so they could basically build the suit to our they were measuring knuckles. Every single thing is measured, which is
everything's measured.
Everything.
I went in there with a cup.
I didn't know you could measure that.
Yeah. I was like,
that's so funny.
TSA scan? I'm not hiding anything. Yeah, man, it was wild. So there was also a pressure to, get your body right, but actually not change too much from the scans once they started building the suits. Or else they, they'd be a little.
It's down to the centimeter.
Oh, it was specific, and so COVID has not been kind. I need to hit the gym again. So,
preacher to the choir, my friend.
Yeah.
Anthony Daniels with Star Wars, he always has to maintain a certain shape, otherwise he'll never fit in that C-3PO.
Oh my gosh!
Stuff,
so sometimes I look
very
at
similar. I'm sure.
I look at that on screen and I go like, I know there's a person in there, but how's there a person in there? Like, it's so weird. It's so
there's a person
thin.
in there, all right.
So thin. Yeah, I know. I was watching some of the Bad Batch. I don't want to shift totally here, but I was watching some of the Bad Batch.
Oh,
and actually thinking about tech and how tech sort of compares in a way to C-3PO, but just so much cooler. I just like tech so much better. Even though I built C-3PO.
He does have kind of a 3PO vibe. I mean, his head shape and the way he's framed. I get that. D does an amazing job, but it's the voice is slightly higher register, kind of like C-3PO. He
seems a little more British than most of the clones.
Yes.
Yeah, all that. So, but I was just thinking,
he's got the round eyes with the goggles.
Yep. He's the intelligent one,
but he's not so foppish. He's not as foppish.
Oh no, that's why
3PO
I think 3PO is really annoying personally.
People don't talk about that as much as they used to. I guess that got overtaken by Ewok angst, and then of course the Jar Jar Binks meltdown of 1999. We're still feeling the fallout of that. But 3PO was open season on Goldenrod for the first few years of Star Wars existence.
Was it?
I had something else.
I didn't even realize that.
Matt, we weren't born yet. That was Mac was laying track. At that point,
right.
You and I,
the Jimmy and the kids.
We don't know what it was like.
All right, it's very good.
What was that movie like when it came out, Jimmy Mac? What was it like?
Wow, you had popcorn back then? Yeah, we had popcorn.
Was it? No, wait. Was
Believe it or not,
in color? Did they show it in color?
They did, yeah. We had to sit through some newsreels, some World War II newsreels before the film actually started, and of course the promotions for Chesterfield cigarettes and whatever else was in front. It was a very different time for going to the movie.
Matt, you brought up Bad Batch, and I wanted to talk about that because now you're not in it yet. That's just me. That's me saying, because you were quoted recently in a publication. Did you get in trouble for this?
Busted.
Did you get a phone call?
I didn't get a phone call, and I'm not in trouble. No, but there were some inquiries as to like what's going on.
Come on. All you said was, look, I never put Anakin Skywalker down. It's a part of me, and there's projects coming up. I mean, my God, everyone knows there, or it could at least assume that there are projects.
Well, so that's that's what's. I don't want to talk about it much, but that was going on in my head. Is that there's always things.
Right.
There's always video games. There's always this, always that. I never really drop Anakin. That's kind of what I said.
That's what we took it as. However, with the Bad Batch being such a continuation of the Clone Wars visually. Yeah. I would imagine it'd be like if you were on a TV show and they killed off your character, and now you're watching it and you're seeing, some of your friends and, doing it without you. Did you get that kind of sense when you were watching the Bad Batch? Did it feel like, hey, something's missing? Like, I should be in this thing. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the honest answer is yeah. But I realize that it's a different show. And so it's, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like graduating in a way. And then, you look back and maybe some of your neighborhood friends are a year younger than you and still in high school and they're doing their thing. But, you have to move on with yours. And that's not your story anymore. Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a bit of that. But at the same time, I mean, I will say, like, I'm just so happy for D. I mean, D is just so amazing. He just deserves everything. And I guess, with the fandom of the Clone Wars, I do feel like the voice actors, and with you guys really giving us so much credit and everything for the production, I've seen a lot of articles now interviewing D and talking about D. And I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome that the voice actors are really, getting some recognition for helping bring these characters to life. And man, I just think he's so talented. And so it's pretty awesome. But I will also say that it feels spin-offy in a way. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. So it's kind of like, it doesn't really feel like the Jedi Star Wars world to me. Granted, I've only seen about half of that first episode, guys, so I don't know what happens. But, it's a very specific world that they're in. So it sort of doesn't feel the same, even though it is. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, so that's kind of how that's our response.
Oh, okay.
To it, essentially.
Yeah.
As fans.
Yeah, I think it's like slightly jarring. Like, I'm watching Star Wars, but I'm not really watching anything about Jedi. So, like, is it really how's it Star Wars? It's one of those things too. So, but
I know Jedi left thanks to you, by the way. I mean, you only have yourself to blame.
And that's the other thing, though. How would Anakin ever fit in? I mean, by halfway through that first episode, he would be Vader, right? So,
yeah, right.
I mean, Anakin wouldn't really be part of it unless they're flashback.
Flashback or something.
Flashbacks are always good. Hallucinations. There's got to be. I don't know. They see some funny mushrooms. These Bad Batches. You never know what might happen. But I will say that your presence or the presence of your character and of course of Vader is felt. He's there, and that is that's cool. As a fan, that's cool to know that we're now living in a world or watching it unfold where Vader is there. We've been calling him Fresh Vader. Jimmy Mack said you can still smell the
the sizzle.
Like his plastics are still off gassing.
Right.
Get the barbecue sauce. Yeah, he smells. It's 50% barbecue, 50% formaldehyde.
Oh, that's
wrong.
So
nobody talks about that. That's kind of an unpleasant combination.
That's just wrong. Sure. That's wrong.
It's too soon. It's too
soon. It is too soon. He's probably still
you're so
a little
loyal
sore.
To your
he's a little sore.
Yeah, I know. But that when Anakin Skywalker killed those kids, it's kind of like bet was off. All bets were off for him. So.
Now here's a thought. I'm just throwing this out. So free of charge to those of you writing the Bad Batch, but I think that if you heard Vader's inner monologue, he would sound like Anakin.
They brought you back already to voice Anakin in his Vader state in Star Wars Rebels
That's
Season
right.
2.
They did.
But I will say, I think, has already been set.
Well, you're right, but I think the specifically, what we saw is when Vader's mask was ripped off. And so I think the visuals, what really helped, them put my voice in there with James Earl Jones. But if it's just the mask and it's intact, I don't know that you would hear Anakin. I think it might be just.
Well, if he's
James
in a
Earl
meditation
Jones.
chamber. He's in a meditation chamber saying, I'm going to get this Bad Batch if I,
He should be the voice of Vader in the meditation chamber.
Yeah,
I don't know. By the look on Matt's face, I'm thinking maybe we're not that far off. I don't.
Well, no, I'm just, maybe Anakin is like the voice of reason. Maybe every now and then we hear Vader's voice of reason, and it's Anakin going like, "What are you doing, man?"
Oh,
and it's James
the angel
going like, "I'm gonna do this." That's terrible. Yeah, but you get it. You get it.
Yes, yes, the devil and the angel on that.
Little
on his
Anakin
shoulders.
pops up. Little Annie on his shoulder.
Yeah. What are you doing, man? Come on.
Yeah.
You can't wipe out more Jedi. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
No,
would Shmi be proud of you?
Do it.
What would Shmi say?
Yeah, what would Shmi do?
Padme say?
How many
Think
people,
about
though,
Watto.
WWSD.
How many people get to say that, Matt, what you just said? You know, when they mixed my voice with James Earl Jones.
Oh, I know. I just said
that's
it
a
so
pretty cool
casually,
thing,
right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You did.
You did. James Earl Jones, like one of the most iconic voices of all time. But you have played complex characters before. And don't take this the wrong way, but for someone who is so ridiculously nice looking, you do play, you play these bad guys. And it reminded me of something that I had heard. They said, not to get all religious, but something that I've heard is like, they talk about how the devil was often portrayed as actually something quite beautiful to look at, quite handsome.
What are you getting at here? What are you saying?
I'm just saying that.
I was wondering the same thing myself. What road are we going down here?
No, no, not at all. Not at all. What I mean is, you don't look like the kind of actor that is cast as villains, yet you tend to get cast in those. Now you're in that role, right? But as you were saying, these are not villains that necessarily see themselves as villains in their own story. I'm just thinking, if I'm going to create a supervillain, Matt Lanter is not necessarily the guy that I look at, but it works is kind of what I'm getting at.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think that, you're right. I mean, I understand that. You don't traditionally. Your villains are always deformed faces, and
right.
But I do think that audiences nowadays they're smarter, and I think they expect more. I think back in when we're seeing like Batman and Penguin, it's good is good and bad is bad, and like let's fight and let's have the movie. But now audiences really look for a much more detailed, so much more depth, even in their villains. So that's why you've got, these origin stories like Joker and stuff like that. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's kind of a smart thing well, first of all, any good villain, as you guys know, I think any good villain thinks they're justified. And that's what kind of.
But do you like playing bad guys, or
I do. It's kind of cliche to say the bad guys have more fun, I guess, but I think that there is some more chance to kind of take chances in your acting, because I think sometimes when you are the villain, people excuse or maybe even expect a little more flair to the performance in a way. So I think maybe in that regard, it can kind of be fun because you can kind of take risks and chances as an actor. That might be perceived as interesting, but if you're just the straight and narrow hero, they're kind of like, what is that? Like, I don't know if I'm being clear on that or not, but
no, you are. And I think you're expressing something a lot of actors would say as well. I mean, I think there's just more meat on the bone when you're playing a villain, because there is that duality of the characters where they think they're doing something for the greater good, but they're, essentially evil. And I think that presents a lot of compelling opportunities for an actor.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that, if you're villainous, I think there's just more layers that are built in, because then you got to figure out, why is he villainous? And like, was he good at one time? What made him be villainous? What's going on in his head while he's doing these villainous things? But if you're just playing the straight and narrow hero, you kind of have to dig to try to find out, what's making him tick and what makes him interesting. And often well-written characters, that's there and it's easy, but sometimes it's not,
Another connection between what I'm seeing in Jupiter's Legacy and in Star Wars is the adherence of the code, and you talked about gray area before, and there's no gray area. You're good, you're bad, and I mean, there's a moment where Josh's character, the Utopian, his son does something that really just changes the whole trajectory of the series and really turns his world upside down. and the Jedi are very much that way. So it's interesting to see a superhero story incorporate some of, like, at what point is being good, in air quotes, a liability, and when do you have to lower yourself to, the enemy that you're facing? It's very, very compelling stuff.
It is, and it really does align pretty perfectly with the Council. I mean, the Council is sort of the end all be all. So you do these things, you stick by it, and you're not a good Jedi if you don't. And it's sort of the same thing.
Yeah, because there's definitely a code of ethics. With the heroes in Jupiter's Legacy, and they do discuss that. Whether it's right because it's right for you or if it's right for the greater good. And that's something that I find very interesting. And that's something that I could see Anakin Skywalker struggling with as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, just paralleling, George to Anakin, I think Anakin saw those shades of gray and, eventually sees the code as this. Things need to change, and the Jedi Council is not changing, and the world is changing, and the galaxy is changing, much like the world is changing in Jupiter's Legacy. And so I see both of those characters like struggling to actually be just, but the code or the Jedi Council is holding them back from actually serving the people, so I actually sort of see George as kind of a people's hero, like I do Anakin. I mean, until he, of course, goes full Darth Vader, is kind of the hero to the people.
Yeah.
Of course, we're talking to your character George from Jupiter's Legacy, not George Lucas, as many of our listeners are accustomed to hearing us refer to as the singular George.
I can say Skyfox. Yeah, I can say. There's Skyfox, George, my character, and then there's the maker. So
right, the maker. Hallowed be thy name.
Yeah.
Actually, that was something that was interesting too. I don't think I have ever seen a scene in a superhero film or a comic book, and like you, I'm not a huge comic book reader, but of superheroes sitting around a dining room table and praying, before a meal. So the inclusion of a god in the way that we think of God in a superhero universe is also very, very interesting. And it seems to be that's where some of the code is anchored in traditional faith.
You're right. And it's funny, I really haven't had any questions about that specifically, but that is really interesting that, even though they're bestowed these powers in a way, and, you'll get there eventually when you finish the series, but you'll kind of see how they come about. But then to also in that same world know that there is a God and who they pray to and who they get their salvation from, that is really, really interesting. And yeah, I mean, obviously I think that's the morals and the ethics that Josh Duhamel's character, kind of lives by our biblical.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I mean, traditional. Yes. Kind of 10 Commandments sort of things.
Right.
And it's fun. It's great to see that presented in something that isn't mocking it. If I can go there, because it doesn't. It takes it quite seriously and gives it, I think, real validity.
Absolutely. And something I'm just spitballing here, actually, for the first time. Maybe there's parallels between, the code and what the old fashioned ways of doing things. You could probably find those themes in Christianity. There are, maybe are some Christians that think there's, the Bible says one thing only. And then you might have another group of people that's going, well, that doesn't really include everybody. And, what does that mean? Because Jesus was inclusive and, yeah, I mean, really, if you kind of want to go there, it's there. And it's really, well, again, it's human themes. It's human things that we deal with. And, yeah.
And family themes too, because that scene in specific, I mean, sure, they were all superheroes. They all had superpowers, but they were all a family, a legitimate. They were all connected by blood, and so they were just maintaining family traditions as well.
Yep.
Even despite the fact they were all blessed with these superhero abilities. So, yeah, that wow, great thing to bring up there, Jason.
It was the Duck Dynasty sequence. You know, you ever seen that show, Duck Dynasty? Every episode they pray together, and it's like how it ends.
Right.
That's what we called it, the Duck Dynasty sequence.
Hey, Matt, how thrilled were you to see Luke Skywalker show up in the final episode of The Mandalorian season 2?
I haven't seen the second season.
You son of a... See, I knew I was taking a risk.
Making big
I know
TV
he's
shows.
busy, but all right, well, spoiler alert.
No, Andy's a dad, Andy's a husband, all that stuff. Yeah. But come on, man. We know that half of making movies is sitting around. You tell me you don't have an iPhone? You can sit there and binge Little Mando?
No. I don't want to watch it on my iPhone. That's not how it's meant to be watched.
That's true. I
mean, I want to watch it on my screen with my sound system. And so many times, like my wife and I, after we finally get the kid down, which, by the way, she goes to bed really late, so I don't have much time at night. You know, usually it's like,
I hear you.
My wife is like, well, I want to stay down here and I want to watch this. And we she liked the first season. I'm actually slightly embarrassed because I'm like so proud of Dave for doing it, The Mandalorian, but I haven't seen it. And then I guess I kind of started to fall behind. And then I was like, well, I don't want to jump in now. So I just tried to ignore everything until I could.
Jimmy Mac just blew it. Just blew it. I'm sure you'd never heard that. And by the way, for those of you who follow Matt on social media, you'll see his TV room is nothing but like one giant couch with an enormous TV, like this fold. Is that what you got still going on?
We call it Mega Couch. So it's a big, huge U shape, and I have a big, 110-inch screen that comes down. But what I found with the projector, as great as it is, it's not great for things like The Mandalorian and Jupiter's Legacy, where you want to watch it in this brilliant, bold, beautiful colors and saturation. And so I put up like an 85-inch TV behind the screen, and my wife didn't understand why.
I'm so sorry. That's just terrible.
So she was like, I don't get it. You have a screen. Why would you put up? And I'm like, you don't get it.
It's a guy thing. It's totally a guy. I have a projector and a screen on my porch so that I can sit outside at night and smoke a cigar and have a drink and watch TV. And my wife doesn't get it. She goes, I don't understand. We have this nice TV. What do you need that for? I'm like, you just don't.
Jimmy, I used to listen to, what was it called? Snide Remarks when you guys were doing it?
Yeah, Snide Remarks. It's coming back from what I've been told.
I love
what you've been told.
Always coming back this summer. Yeah, me and Wendy Snyder, we're going to start podcasting again.
I loved listening to that. And speaking of outdoors, I liked the episodes when you guys were outdoors. I lived vicariously. I was like, I'm just imagining myself sitting in a suburb of Chicago drinking a wine or and listening to the crickets. I really enjoyed it. So
the crickets, that was our audience, the crickets, and they were responding appropriately. But living vicariously,
I liked it.
Living vicariously through our show is probably best for your liver. So good for you. But look for that. That is coming back. I don't think we've really talked about it, but Snide Remarks is coming back this summer. Like again, as I said, from what I've been told.
I love it.
I'm looking forward to that. There was a sequence in Jupiter's Legacy that has nothing to do with superheroes. It has nothing to do with really anything we've talked about other than you. It's the breakfast moment. He's having breakfast by himself.
Right.
And he gets served up one of those eggs in that little special cup to hold the egg. And I was watching you as you kind of, you didn't even think about it. You just sort of looked away and you went into it as if you've had eggs prepared that way 1,000 times. And I know it was a common breakfast back in that time period in the late 20s, early 30s. People were eating eggs like that all the time. But I thought to myself, Jim, you've never had an egg served to you like that for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And so how was it?
Not bad. I actually like my eggs like a little bit in between.
Like an omelet or scrambled or over easy.
It's kind of a soft boiled ish.
Soft boiled. Okay.
I'm a big fan of eggs Benedict, which is kind of a little bit more of a poached egg.
I love that with the Canadian bacon, delicious.
Yeah. So it was kind of that consistency. But I will say, I've seen that before. I did a show called Commander in Chief years ago with Donald Sutherland, and I specifically remember a scene where he was eating an egg like that, and I think it stood out to me too because I had never seen that. I think it's just something that I don't know, rich politicians do. So,
well, I was curious, were there really 100 eggs there on set, Matt, or were they CGI eggs?
No. That was real. That was real.
They really had 100 eggs laid out.
It was quite, kind of intimidating as an actor in a way because we were in this massive that was some mansion that was outside of Toronto, and you saw the scope of the room. It was just massive, and it's just kind of intimidating when you're in this huge room and all eyes, all cameras are on you and you alone, and that's I guess where you just kind of get in your own head and you do your thing as the character, But yeah, those were all real, and the poor props people, they worked really hard that evening just to put everything correctly, and and that was a really, really cool, memorable, standout scene. I got a lot of pictures on my phone of that one, and I'm getting a lot of tweets about that. People tweeting me a bunch of egg emojis, just over and over and over.
Now you're the egg guy.
I know,
but it does do a lot to establish George's character in the sense that he's kind of a lonely guy. He doesn't have a family. His parents are gone. It's like your best friend is not your best friend, but your friend. Your father is your butler.
Absolutely,
it's like
Cuthbert,
Richie
that's right.
Rich with no family.
No, that's right. I think that I saw character as, he's a little big, and like kind of the way he moves, and he's got a little bit of that flair to him, slightly ambiguous in a way, and I thought that was interesting because, when you're that rich and you don't really have anything you need to do, everything just sort of is a production, like what else are you going to do other than make your life a theater production? And so I kind of saw him as just big because why the hell not, and so that I kind of added some of that flair in there. And, it seems people seem to be responding really positively to that. But I also think that, touching on what you said, Jason, is that I think that theatrical bigness is actually there to cover what's going on inside. The very the small hurt that he's got, the small feeling that he's got, just stemming from his loneliness and his hurt on the inside. I think no better way to cover that up than going even bigger,
with flamboyance, and there's a really great scene when you're talking to the Utopian as Sheldon, and you finally open up and you look over and he's asleep.
Yeah,
like he's like you're about to tell him, it was just amazing. So I mean,
Sheldon had his own problems to deal with.
Well, true, nothing like seeing dead relatives to spoil a good time. But it made me feel bad because like even your best friend isn't there for you in the moment of ultimate vulnerability. And
that's funny. My mom texted me and said the same thing, but I think what's great about that is
I think a lot like a mom, I guess.
You and my mom should hang out.
That's true. He listens to Manilow.
What I like about that, though, is it shows George's George Hutchense, Jupiter's Legacy. It shows his loyalty to his friend. I think that he came away from that. Sheldon fell asleep, but I think probably what was going on in his head is he hates to reminisce on those feelings that he harbors, but at the same time, I think he was happy that he could calm and relax his friend to the point of just, settling down for a minute. And I'm sure that brought him a lot of comfort too, because I think that, again, not having much in his life as far as, family and kind of matters of the heart, I think that he probably holds that relationship with Sheldon very dear because Sheldon is his family, and even Walter to a degree. And there's a major friction with them, but
your scenes with him are real great. You guys have a real good. I guess it's sort of anti-chemistry. You have a good chemistry of sort of needling each other. And
thank you. Yeah. As we were doing a lot of interviews together this past week and a half, I think his name is Ben Daniels is the actor. He's a fantastic guy. we kind of started realizing we'd never vocalized this with each other before, but that George and Walter are actually somewhat similar characters on opposite ends of the spectrum. Walter is a very, he's a very kind of lonely. He feels like no one's ever in his corner. No one listens to him. He's the black sheep. He doesn't fit in. He's not like a cool guy like Sheldon and George. I think on the other end of the spectrum, George feels like he doesn't fit in. He's not part of the family. He's never going to be part of the family. He can't have that connection by he was born that way. He doesn't have no one there to listen to him. I mean, he talks in that scene to Sheldon, and he's talking about, I have Cuthbert, but he's hardly a scintillating conversationalist. He's basically saying he's lonely. He's got no one to talk to. He's an outcast. He's on the outside. He wants the same thing. I think he wants that same belonging that Walter wants.
And they're both clinging to Sheldon.
Yeah,
in a way.
I think that George kind of needles at him and picks at him because maybe he sees that as the weakness in himself. That Walter, on the surface, Walter is weak, and I think maybe George is picking on that because he sees that weakness, and he, it's like a part of himself that he doesn't want to come out. And so maybe he's kind of a bully in that sense. He, like a traditional bully does. You pick on someone because you feel insecure. So really interesting things here. And Ben and I were kind of figuring all that out, going, oh my God, we're like almost mirrored images of each other in a way.
Just imagine how good season 2 is going to be. You figure all this stuff out.
Season 2 is going to be spectacular. And I'm pretty excited to learn that Netflix is really approaching this as a new franchise. I don't think I realized that. I am holding out for season 2, and it sounds like there's going to be a lot more from this incredible world.
I hope so. I don't know. At one point, I was told that the Netflix models, they take about 30 days, and they sort of assess the views and all that kind of stuff. So I truthfully don't know the answer to that. I really hope so. It would be my opinion that I think we would, at least for another season. Just for all those reasons.
It made such a big splash.
I mean,
a lot of eyes are on the show. And we recommend our listeners get their eyes on the show as well. You're hearing us talk about all of these rich characters and this incredible world building going on here, and soft boiled eggs. I mean, the show has everything. So, and Matt Lanter, of course,
and Jimmy,
that's why I want people to support it.
Well, and I can say that also. I think if you're a fan of Star Wars, obviously it's a Star Wars podcast, but there are a lot of similarities to the Star Wars universe. Jason, I had sent you that link that Mark Miller, the creator, was talking about. He was very inspired by Carrie Fisher's memoirs, and how she kind of was saying, how could I ever live up to Debbie Reynolds, my mom, and my dad, Eddie Fisher, and I think Mark Miller had mentioned separation came from that as well, going, how do you live up to your parents that are so famous, and how can you be Superman's kid? So that's a tie-in right there. And then I also had read something from Mark that he very much saw this world as kind of a Star Wars opportunity here that Jimmy Mack, you're talking about. There's a world to be built out, and obviously us Star Wars fans, we love to escape into this world. I think it's one of the reasons we all love it, because it's just an endless possibility of escapism and stories and characters, and that's that's certainly there for Miller World here.
And it's so important, for stories to I think one to sort of have this ideal or present this ideal for us to aspire to. It's some people consider that some of the cool kids might consider that old-fashioned, but I still think that that's some of the most important storytelling that we can have.
It's something we can all relate to. Every single one of us can relate in some way. I think because we all, whether we're good or bad or whatever, we all want to be better. We all, I think, want to do good, and it's totally relatable for everybody. And whether, even if you don't like superhero stuff. Actually, my dad was like, I wanted to see more like fighting and action, and I was like, well, that's the beauty in it, Dad. Like, it's there, but if you like This Is Us and that's your thing, that's kind of there too.
Yes. Sure. Yeah. It's the other side of, I mean, there's plenty of, for that sort of thing. I mean, not taking away anything from the Marvel movies. They're wonderful, but, a lot of times some of them feel like just one big action sequence after another. And it's like, hello, can we have some character going on here?
Yeah. Jupiter's Legacy does dive into the reality of these human beings who find themselves with these tremendous powers and how they got there as human beings.
Absolutely.
Which I find is fascinating.
I do too. I think it's really cool that we get to know these people before they're a superhuman. So they actually have the perspective. And that's another thing that differs from the next generation in the show than from the originals, is that they have the perspective of just being just human. And so that's kind of cool too. And, that's something we obviously don't get in Superman, something like that, where he just kind of is, but so, yeah.
Do you think there's going to be any merchandising tie-ins? Can we maybe get a statue of you or something?
I need a Skyfox action figure.
Yeah. Me too, man. Me too. I hope so. I do know that at one point when we were shooting, I do know there were, the Power B, I know they were having meetings about merchandising. So I don't know if that could be standard procedure for these types of shows. I really have no idea, but I hope so. I would love to have a Skyfox.
By the way, speaking of merchandising, our pal Paul Bateman sent some images. I don't know if you've seen this thing, but Matt, I think it's Hot Toys or Sideshow. I get them confused.
I thought it was Sideshow.
It was Sideshow Collectibles has put out or is putting out a 12-inch animated style Anakin Skywalker figure that is just like he walked right off of the cell or whatever they make these things on now. It's incredible.
I did see a picture of that actually, and I think James Arnold Taylor actually brought it to my attention. James, by the way, lives like the neighborhood behind me. It's weird.
I know, that's so great. You guys are all living in Nashville now.
Yeah, I could literally walk to his house.
That's incredible. Yeah, because there's an Obi-Wan as well.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And he actually got in touch with them. And I think actually somebody from Sideshow emailed me a couple days ago. I got to get back to them. But hopefully.
You need one of those. You got to get one.
Oh, absolutely. I need one of those for sure. Yeah, it looked amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool because that style is it's for Star Wars fans now, especially. It's so iconic, and it's great to see merchandise in that style again.
Right.
Speaking of iconic, we've spoken to you, I don't know how many dozens of times over the years, but it never gets old to me that just I sit back, I listen, and I hear nothing but Anakin. And, James Arnold Taylor is doing a Ewan McGregor impersonation. TC was clearly channeling Samuel L. Jackson. We know Corey Burton is doing his damn bestest Christopher Lee impersonation. But in your case, I don't note a Hayden Christensen impersonation. I hear you through and through in your ability to bring Anakin to life. Did they ever coach you in that regard? Did they ever say, be more Matt or be more Hayden or be less Matt? Anything like that?
No. I never. I was never given the instruction to be a little bit more like Hayden. Definitely not in like vocal quality or tone or anything like that. Sometimes I would touch on his cadence because I feel like the cadence is a very character thing, but not a sound-alike thing in any way. And I know you guys know this, but I had met with George before we started recording, and Dave, and they had talked to me through the difference in the characters and what we know as Anakin and kind of what we want to get to know as Anakin. And the want to get to know Anakin was a much more heroic, charismatic, witty kind of guy. And so I really felt the freedom to just be me in that character and what I brought to it. When I auditioned for it, Dave, I remember Dave in the room just telling me, hey, do you know Han Solo and do you know Luke Skywalker? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, just do like a combination of those two and just let me see what you come up with. And so that was my gut response was kind of the hero Luke, but the swagger of Han Solo. and that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, my friend.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, did you see though? This thing's been floating around on the internet. Hayden did some sort of interview and seemed like he had a bit of a deeper register. I think he was imitating somebody. He was telling a story, and it came out much deeper. And it was floating around on my Twitter feed. Someone saying like Hayden doing. I don't think he was doing an impression of me.
He's doing Matt Lanter.
Yes. Yeah. What's going on here? Everything's up.
He's doing the Matt Lanter vocal warm up, getting ready for shooting Kenobi. He's like, God, if I come out on that show and don't sound like that Matt Lanter guy, everyone's gonna say I'm a phony.
Yeah. Can you do a?
It's not Anakin.
Hayden, can you do a little bit of Matt Lanter in there? I don't think they're saying that, but
I would love it if they do. I would love it if they do.
Deborah Chow pulls him aside. Can you tone down the Hayden Christensen just a little bit? Find your inner Matt Lanter, please.
Oh my gosh!
Well, they didn't really teach that at Juilliard. Just find it.
Don't even say that, because then it's going to be some kind of weird headline that I'm telling you.
Right. Hey, listen, you have to worry more about the Matt Lanter hasn't seen season 2 of The Mandalorian yet. Those are going to be the headlines after this young man.
I know. I gotta see it. But all
right.
But anyway.
I don't mean to scold you, Matt. I don't mean to scold. You're very busy.
Hey, man,
you're a husband and a father. We know you got a family to hang out with, and Matt, I mean, it's just thank you for being a friend of this show for so many years, and we couldn't be more proud of you, more happy for you. Phenomenal. So again, thank you
so much. Yeah, thank you. I always say it. When I do interviews and stuff, I always tell people that the Star Wars fandom is so special to me after all these years, and I mean, not just as like a creator of Star Wars, but I really feel, and I know you guys feel this too, is like, when we're all geeks of Star Wars and we're in this fandom, we feel like family together. And, I say like, I'm driving down the street and I see somebody with a Star Wars bumper sticker and I'm like, I want to talk to them. And I know you guys have that same feeling, because we all feel like we're this cool bonded family, and it's so special. And, you guys are really, in some ways, the patriarch of this Star Wars fandom, and have been for years since we've been doing these conventions and things like that. And just listening to your show, from many years ago, I've gotten such a deeper appreciation for the fandom and the world, aside from just voicing a character. So thank you guys for that, and you're a big part of that for me. So
very kind.
I'm so touched that you said that. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely.
You're the best. You're the best. And we love the Clone Wars cast and crew. I don't think I've ever been around anything singular production that had just such
great people,
crop individuals. Yeah,
great people. Yep. Like 16 years later, we're just all still connected, and we're all still around, and it's great. So yeah,
it is.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, dude, again, so happy for you, so proud of you. And if we get down there, there's a convention that happens in Nashville. We're talking about coming down for it next year. So we'll and Nashville's my adopted hometown. I lived there for a little over a year.
You did?
I did.
Oh, I'm actually headed up to. I think I'm headed to your area tomorrow. I think we're hopping in the car and headed up there. Yeah, I almost called you. I was like, "Do you want me to delay this and be in person there with you?"
Oh, geez, that would have been unbelievable. I remember those days. It's from here to there is like exactly like door to door. It was like 8 hours,
something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
But all right, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations. And as there's more news about Jupiter's Legacy or any project you're associated with, do you have anything else that you want to mention that's coming up other than the #1 show on Netflix?
And your return as Anakin Skywalker. That's pending, of course.
Jeez.
I had to say that.
Yeah, I don't want another email. So no, not really. I've got a movie that I'm slated to do in Atlanta soon. Can't really say much about it. But that, and then there's some voiceover things, but like you said, I'm pretty busy right now with the #1 show. So it sounds super cocky, but I mean,
no, you earned it.
You earned it, man. Might as well enjoy it.
Yes.
All right, but have a safe trip. up this way, and best to Angela and the little one, and take care, man. And like I said, anytime you have something you want to tell our listeners about, we'd be more than happy to have you.
Okay, guys. Great chatting as always.
You're always
I'll
welcome.
see you next time.
All right.
Thanks, Matt.
Take care, bud.
All right.
Matt
Bye-bye.
Lanter, ladies and gentlemen.
Chewie, get